I'm Connor Old, and this is Old's Oscar Countdown. And today we're going to be looking at the biggest category and the biggest video, not the biggest category, but the biggest accumulation of video and different categories in one video. And that is best score, best sound, best production design, best score, best song, best sound editing, and best sound mixing. So it's all the sound categories, it's all about music this episode, which is what I'm trying to do because although it looks like Oscars sort of snuck up on me, I have to sort of combine some of the categories into one video. I decided to do some more ones that make sense with all the sound, and then next week we're going to be looking at best production design, best costume design, best makeup and hairstyling. I've been sort of teasing that one for a while now, but I think next week should be the one where we do it. And then from there, I'll do the last three categories, at least three sort of main ones, which is best foreign film, best visual effects, and best editing, just film editing. I'm going to skip things like documentary short and animated short, but I think those are the only two categories that I'm missing out on, and I've done every other category. And last week was cinematography, of course. And then I'll do the sort of final Oscar predictions video. Then I'm going to react to the Oscar nominations, and then we'll go into full throttle for who's going to win the categories once the nominations have been announced. Welcome back. If you're new, comment below, subscribe to the channel. Essentially every week we break down a different category leading up into the Oscars. So we're almost near the end. It's such a super fun time right now. I can't wait to keep on doing more of these videos just because I have such a blast doing them. And it's going to be a long episode because we're tackling 4 categories, whether the next 2 videos I'll be tackling only 3. But there are some similarities between sound editing and sound mixing, in which the nominees are the same, but the winners could be different. So I'm going to do from score and then read off all my winners and then possibles. Instead of doing all winners and possibles for all the categories, that'll take too long, I'll break it down to segmented chunks. So first we're going to do score, then we're going to do song, then we're going to do sound editing, then we're going to do sound mixing. And aside from all this Oscar coverage, I know that's why a lot of people come to my channel, I will be doing my own award show, well at least I'll try to do my own award show called the Connors. That's my name, Connor Old. Like the Oscars, so it's going to have similar categories, but this is sort of my favorites of the year, and that'll happen sort of before the Oscar nominations, I believe, sort of late January, and that should be a lot of fun because I should have seen most 2016 movies by then, and I can make my own sort of decision. It'll be a fun time. I'll talk a little bit about each one, and then sort of reward the things in an award show fashion, so that should be a lot of fun. Stay tuned for that. But right now, we're looking at best score, and I'll read off who I think is going to get nominated, and then the possibles, and it's a very interesting and difficult year to predict for score. First one, La La Land, Justin Hurwitz. Number 2, Jackie, Mika Levy. Florence Foster Jenkins, Alexandre Desplat. The BFG, John Williams. And Moonlight, Nicholas Britell. For my possibles, Lion, Dustin O'Halloran and Hasuka, and Rogue One, Star Wars Story, Michael Giacchino. Now this is a really interesting one for score because I really put a lot of thought into this one. Is because I do like my score. It's interesting because I like the score, but you have to incorporate how it plays well in the movie and how it plays when you're just listening to it. But for right now, the number one that I think is a good lock is La La Land for Justin Hurwitz. Right now, I do think he's the winner. If you don't know Justin Hurwitz, he also did Whiplash. He's called roommates with Damien Chazelle. That's why they sort of work together. And this is not, to clarify, not the soundtrack, so not the musical numbers you see in La La Land, but rather the score, which is really interesting about the movie, and I think it could actually win, is that some people may think it's the soundtrack, so it's like, oh, of course I'm going to reward La La Land, but really it has this really beautiful score by Justin Hurwitz, using things like the drums and other instruments, like he did in Whiplash, which he, I believe was nominated for, or... No, he was not nominated for it, but he should have been. He was nominated on my list, that's right. Just the interstitials between the musical numbers and during the dialogue, there's this great sort of score to it, and it's a little unconventional. It's not the typical sort of violins and trumpets and pianos, it's drums and other things like that. It really elevates the film and seeps into the background, but it's just another reason why La La Land is such a great movie. It's such a well-directed movie by Damien Chazelle. So I think Justin Hurwitz is probably number 1 possible pick for me right now, and definitely a nomination, I think, unless someone they discredit it necessarily because they think it's so soundtracky. But this is nominated by the branch of scores, so which will come into, I think, the reason why I'm choosing some of my picks instead of some of the more popular ones. So next one is Jackie by Mica Levi, and she's also done Under the Skin, and this is, I think, like her second feature film that she's actually composed. Under the Skin is just a beautiful, sort of haunting film, and just the score, it just seeps under your skin in a sense. And that's what I've heard from Jackie as well, is that's sort of like a horror movie in a sense, watching sort of how this woman, Jackie Kennedy, deals after the aftermath of her husband and having to get shot. So it's really interesting to see sort of her only second feature film here. Under Skin was really, really good, but I think underseen. But now that Jackie's on the forefront, I think it's going to get recognized. My next one here is going to be Florence Foster Jenkins, who is done by Alexandre Desplat. He's an Oscar favorite. He's done a bunch of stuff. Most recently, he won the winning Grand Budapest Hotel, an amazing score that fit that movie so beautifully. But this is one of the reasons why a lot of people don't have Florence Foster Jenkins on the list. I think it's going to be sort of a Philomena situation, or if you don't know, Philomena wasn't on anyone's radars, and then started doing well at the Globes, and then starts doing well at the SAGs, and it starts coming up and up. And Judi Dench gets nominated, and it just gets nominated in a lot of these categories, including score. So I think that's what's going to happen with Florence Foster Jenkins. People are discounting it, but I think Meryl Streep can get in. She might be able to get in, and things like Hugh Grant can get in there. It could even get in for picture like Philomena did, because it's the same director. And sort of that weird one, but that the older audience of the Academy sort of loves. And Florence Foster Jenkins is all about music. It's about this opera singer who can't really sing, but her passion sort of drives her will to do it. And it's really, really interesting. I didn't love the movie that much. It wasn't my cup of tea per se, but I think that the Academy is going to reward this, and it's about music, and I think it's going to be sort of a dark horse. So, and it's Alexandre Desplat, he's such a favorite, which is sort of the reason why I'm picking him. And my next pick was the BFG with John Williams, and because this is the Academy's branch of score, and say the acting branch votes for the nominations of acting and actress, same with the score. But then once the Oscars happen, everyone votes on every category. So the nominations are very indicative of what the score and what the composers want. So that's why I think Alexandre Desplat is going to get there, because he's so highly well respected, and he's a couple other movies this year, including like Between Oceans and I believe Secret Life of Pets. My next one, like I said, is the BFG for John Williams. Of course, John Williams, Harry Potter, Star Wars, so celebrated composer, the greatest of all time. If you ask me, he's been nominated like maybe 20 times. I think it's an absurd amount of times. He's won 5 times. And that's why I think he's going to get nominated, because he got nominated for Star Wars The Force Awakens. And this is sort of his reunion back with Spielberg, because he's done every Spielberg movie, I believe, except Bridge of Spies, which was Thomas Newman, which also got nominated. But I think this year they're going to reward him for the nomination just because they admire John Williams so much, and it's his collaboration back with Spielberg, and it has sort of that childhood magic. So I think he's going to get nominated. My final one is Moonlight, Nicholas Britell, more of an unknown person. He's been coming up in the ranks recently, though. He's done The Big Short last year, which didn't get nominated, and I would consider a forgettable score. But he does a really good job with Moonlight. He incorporates pieces of Moonlight in it, Mozart in it, and there's this great sort of violin score that the song is the middle of the story. It's a beautiful thing that you see in all the trailers, and just a beautiful sort of violin score on that, where sharp sort of notes, and I really enjoyed Moonlight score for sure. It's one of my favorites, but I think that's going to get nominated, and I think because Moonlight's doing so well across the board, I think it's going to get nominated as well. And then my possibles, Lion, this is Dustin O'Halloran, and Hasuka. I recently saw Lion. I haven't been able to dictate, that's my whole theme of Barely Ever. I can't decide how Lion's going to do. Well, I saw it, and I still can't decide what it's going to do. It even makes me worse. But I made the comparison to Carol. I think it's going to have a similar year to Carol. It's a Weinstein company. I don't think it's going to get Best Picture, but I think it's going to get Dev Patel and Nicole Kidman, and possibly score, and possibly writing. But right now I have these other scores ahead of it, and like writing, I have Nocturnal Animals ahead of Lion. But it's a back and forth with me right now. But this is definitely Dustin O'Halloran and Hasuka. They're pianists, and the filmmaker, Garth Davis, was going to do one part of the movie, one composer, and the other part of the movie, a different composer. But then and they certainly realize that the two pianists can work well together and sort of come together and make a great score where there's elements of the beginning where he's a child, and there's elements of him as an adult, so that when he goes back to India, you hear those similar cues. Or even though it's like two separate stories and they separate how the music sounds, there are some cues that remind him that it's still the same person, despite him going from India and then growing up and living in Australia and becoming a completely different man, really. But he still has that connection to it. And it's a very heartfelt movie. I did enjoy it a lot. Not going to be in my top 10 of the year for sure, but still, good, heartwarming watch. And then my last one here is Rogue One, Michael Giacchino. And now These Possibles, really, guys, can get in there. I'm sort of going off on a limb saying not picking Rogue One or Lion and going with Florence Foster Jenkins of the BFG, for an example. But this is a hard one for me because Rogue One, I think, Michael Giacchino, I didn't like the score. To me, it felt rushed. I didn't know it was rushed, really. I was like, that sort of felt rushed. I go back, I look home after seeing the movie, and he did it 4 weeks after Alexandre Desplat fell off the project. Not sure what happened there, but it did seem a little forgettable to me, especially as Star Wars has such a high pedigree, and this is the first Star Wars movie that John Williams has not scored because it's a standalone sort of spin-off movie, but John Williams will be doing the mainline episodes 7, 8, 9. And I just felt it was forgettable. They didn't have a theme, like even The Force Awakens, which wasn't that great. Didn't get nominated after all, but had something like Rey's theme, which I thought was really well done. But Michael Giacchino is coming through the ranks now. He's a super well-regarded composer, doing things like Jurassic World and Zootopia recently this year. And I just think that if anything possible, he can get in there just because he's well-respected, but not well-respected enough compared to like an Alexandre Desplat or John Williams. Which comes to the real theme of this. I wrote down some numbers here on my iPad, just who I consider of the past years. Over the past years, how many people are sort of recognized. It's similar people that keep on showing up and up. So in 2016, 4 out of the 5 composers have been nominated more than twice, or I think 3 times was my role. 2015, 3 out of 5. 2014, 4 out of 5. And 2013, 4 out of 5. So you see this trend where it's like John Williams, Alexandre Desplat, Thomas Newman, even guys like maybe Carter Burwell, who is well respected in the industry, but not necessarily well respected with the Oscars, but they get nominated over and over and over again. So that's why I'm saying, like, okay, we got Mika Levy in there, but we got Nicholas Britell in there, 2 newcomers. And then what, you're gonna add an O'Halloran and Hachuska for Lion in there, so it'd be 3? It just goes against the Oscar norm. That's why I went to the people that I think they respect John Williams and Alexandre Desplat so much that they're gonna nominate them, even though they're not front runners. I mean, they haven't done their best work necessarily. Which is maybe Michael Giacchino in his favor as well. He might get in there because it's a Star Wars movie, and Giacchino is well respected as well, but not as much as a John Williams or an Alexandre Desplat. And then even something like 2014 or 2015, 4 out of 5, but that 5th one that's new, Stephen Price in this case for Gravity, he won because it was so amazing. He almost got up above everyone because it was so amazing. Because everyone else from there votes on them. But I think for the nominations, it's people who are well respected in that industry, and I think that's going to go to these guys like Alexandre Desplat and John Williams. But that's it for score. I think it's really competitive this year. Even more competitive is the next category, which is Best Song. Best Song, I'll read them and then do the possibles. City of Stars, La La Land, Audition, La La Land, How Far I'll Go, Moana, Can't Stop the Feeling, Trolls, and Drive It Like You Stole It, Sing Street, with my possibles being Running, Hidden Figures, Try Everything, Zootopia, and Faith from Sing. Now, Best Song, this is a really competitive category. I mean, really competitive, more than regular years. Last year was super interesting, but it makes sense after you look back after it with Sam Smith's Ray on the Wall from Spectre winning over the obvious choice, which is The Hunting Ground, Till It Happens to You from Lady Gaga. That's the key fact right there. Last year, they voted for a Bond movie. Because why? Because even though Lady Gaga's song was better and it got a standing ovation at the Oscars, and Sam Smith was like, wait, what? What did I vote for? People were thinking probably like, why am I not voting for the Lady Gaga performance? But that's the key. Does not see the artist on it. That's why some of the reasons why I didn't put it on here is because it doesn't see the artist on the actual ballot. It just says, the name of the song and then the name of the movie. Which is the first one, City of Stars, La La Land. They've done a really good job this year campaigning for these because they've only chose 2 songs to campaign. They could have campaigned all the songs, but then things would have canceled out each other and they probably wouldn't have won. They've been putting this really, really smartly, and have only nominated 2 songs. That's the main theme, which is City of Stars, and then Emma Stone's next one, who I think is going to get nominated, Audition, her 11 o'clock number. If you don't know, Broadway plays you start 8:30, and then by the 11 o'clock, that's sort of the ending finale, sort of show-stopping number by the main character. And Emma Stone, in hers of the Audition, it's just her singing on a black screen. It's just her, and she's a good singer. I think she does really well. Good job. And I think that these two are not my favorites. City of Stars is, a great theme, right? But they're not my favorites. Not the big numbers like the opening one, Another Day of Sun, or another good one, Someone in the Crowd. Sort of the two more like generic ones, but the ones that I enjoy personally more. But I still think that City of Stars will win, and that the Audition will get nominated. But those two, watch out. I think they're going to get nominated. And La La Land, a musical, has such great music, is the #1 frontrunner for Best Picture. These two are almost a sure-in for Best Song, even though it's such a competitive year. And next one is sort of going against what I'm saying, but it's Can't Stop the Feeling from Trolls. This is Justin Timberlake's song. It was funny because I was watching the Hollywood Reporter Roundtable with animations, and the director, I'm forgetting his name, of Trolls, said, talk to Justin Timberlake, and he wanted to make a song for the movie. He says, hey, might as well make it a hit song too, and they laugh back and forth. And what happens? It becomes a hit song. This is a fun one, a great one to dance to. People will love it. I think this is the dark horse right now of possibly getting in if the La La Land songs cross each other out and cancel each other out and split the votes. This could sort of the top because it's a fun, popular music and song that everyone knows, not necessarily from the movie, but everyone knows the song. My next one here is from Moana. This is the Let It Go from Moana. Of course, Let It Go winning from Frozen. This is a much more competitive year, so I don't think we'll win, but it's How Far I'll Go. It's a marquee song, and it's the big one from Moana. I haven't seen Moana, but from what I've heard, it's the Let It Go of Moana. The last pick that I'm going to do is Drive It Like You Stole It from Sing Street. I'm a big fan of Sing Street. Not my top 10 of the year, not a huge fan like some of other people were, but I was a fan of the soundtrack specifically, and Drive It Like You Stole It is the best song on that soundtrack. It should have been a summer hit. It was so, so good. And this is sort of a personal pick, and maybe my personal decisions influencing my Oscar decisions. But you have to go with your heart sometimes, and I'm going to Drive It With You Like You Stole It from Sing Street because it's on that cusp, but just because I love it so much, it gets nomination. And Sing Street did well at the Globes, or not did well at the Globes, but did well nomination well at the Globes. So you could see that thing for the Oscars. But the next one is Runnin', Hidden Figures. Hidden Figures I think will eventually possibly do well at the Oscars. Maybe not Best Picture, but definitely on that cusp. And Run, this is done by Pharrell Williams. Hidden Figures has a lot of good original songs on their soundtrack, and I think that I haven't heard the song yet because I'm waiting till I see the movie, but this is definitely a Pharrell song, so it's a fun, happy song, like Happy, that can do well at the Oscars. Next one here is Try Everything, Zootopia. This is Shakira's song. This is the main theme from Zootopia. It's a good song, a good pop song done by the Gazelle pop star Shakira in Zootopia. And I think if they like Zootopia, which very well could win for Best Animated Feature, they could nominate this just because to reward Zootopia more than it does, which even could they nominate for a score for Michael Giacchino for Zootopia. But nonetheless, I don't think it's going to get in there, just because it's happened such a long time ago, it's not fresh in people's minds. And then the last one is Faith Sing. This is Stevie Wonder. So you see all these possibles are all people that are celebrities, but they don't know they're celebrities when they're voting on them or when they're nominating them, so I don't think it's going to be nominated. Although Sing, I just put it in there because it's such a musical movie, so I think they might want to nominate a musical number just because it's Sing and they had such a good time with it. From what I'm hearing, that's what people are having. And also, the final possible, which I haven't read, is Alan Menken's Sausage Party, The Great Beyond from Sausage Party, and it's from the writers of the music who did Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast. So it's sort of maybe they want to reward him for doing previous works, but I don't think so. That's just just a real quick mention. And my sound editing and sound mixing have the same nominations and the same possible, so I'll just read them. Hacksaw Ridge, La La Land, Rogue One, Arrival, and Silence, with the possible being Jungle Book. And just a quick preface, if you don't know the difference between sound editing and sound mixing is what the audience hears, sound mixing is how the audience hears it. So sound editing is the stuff that they capture they capture on set, but a lot of times with something like Mad Max, which won last year, they were given a silent movie pretty much, and they had to make that sounds in ADR and foliage. And then sound mixing is how how loud the music is going to be or how loud the effects are going to be, and it's just how the audience hears it. But the actual what's hearing is sound editing, which is going to be normally the one film takes both categories, but in this scenario, because we have La La Land and musical, it changes things up. Sound editing will be Hacksaw Ridge for winner. That's what I think is going to get it. Anyways, just because it's a war film, and war films do well with this. We saw this with Whiplash. American Sniper won Best Sound Editing, but Whiplash won Best Sound Mixing. I think the same thing's going to be here, where La La Land wins Sound Mixing because it does a great job at sort of balancing up those levels of when music and when there's dialogue, how to influence the score into it. And there's so many different factors. I think it's going to be rewarded for sound mixing for sure. And Hacksaw Ridge, because it's a brutal, violent, gritty war movie, that's going to get nominated for sound editing, and I think going to win. And then the next one here is Rogue One. Sound mixing, I don't think it has a chance. But sound editing, I think it does have a chance if the people really like it more than Hacksaw Ridge. And because it's like they put the war in Star Wars, which you see all over the time, but it is really a war, gritty Star Wars movie, and they might want to reward that for being a raw war movie for sound editing. My next one is Arrival. Now, I think has a really good chance, not a really good chance actually, excuse me. In sound, I believe sound mixing, yes, sound mixing. Although it could win sound editing, it could win still both categories. We'll have to see if Hacksaw Ridge and La La Land cancel each other out. But right now, sound mixing, I think that sound mixing. I saw Arrival, it's one of my favorite movies of the year, maybe my favorite movie of the year. It's so good, and just the silence that we see with our next pick, Silence, of course. Both films have sort of a nature aspect to it, and the aliens, sort of the grumblings, and the best parts of it, of the scores and the sound in the movie, really, is the silence and the place where there is nothing, and you hear just the natural sounds of it, or you hear just these swelling sort of songs in certain points where it's really valuable, where there be silence where they're running through the woods, or Arrival when we're seeing the aliens for the first time, where it's just like insane. But then there's also the silence. So I think they do a great job balancing both. And a movie like Arrival has great sound, because when you think of that movie, one of the first things you think is sound because of just the silence. And also Johan Johansson and I believe this composer for silence, I forget his name, weren't qualified for the scores. So they might want to reward them in the sound branch just because they love the sound so much, and people get sound and score sort of confused sometimes. So Arrival and Silence, since they've been disqualified for the score, they might want to reward them in Best Sound Editing and Best Sound Mixing. And that might be possible for both Jungle Book. It's just because it was all done on like a sort of a CGI sort of area, and you have the growls by the phone just died out on me for a second. But we're back, and I was saying Jungle Book, the growls about it, the sounds will possibly get in, and I think that if you could definitely get replace Silence, which sort of has been losing steam. It hasn't been getting nominated for really any award shows. By the time my final nominations come up, it might got sort of knocked off lists completely. It's hard to judge Silence now as things come along, and things like Jungle Book or Hidden Figures could replace it, but guys, that's the end of the episode. These things probably won't change by the time we do the final nominations because we're so close to them. Next week, you're going to be looking at Best Makeup Hairstyling, Best Costume Design, and Best Production Design. That should be a fun episode, an interesting episode. I know this is a long one, but thanks for tuning in. I'll put time links, hopefully. I'll try to edit that in where different categories are. And stay tuned for my Oscar nominations final video. Well, that's going to be a huge, big bonanza. Stay tuned for my best, my Connors, my award show. Stay tuned to next week. And aside from that, I'm Connor Roll. This is Old's Oscar Countdown. And stay tuned.